Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Quinn Wang. I am a San Francisco-based cataract surgeon. I'm also the founder and CEO at Quadrant Eye, which is powering remote eye exams. Today, I have with me my good friend James Birch, who is founding a stealth startup and has a super impressive resume that includes being a two-time chief of staff and also a former anthropologist and climate technologist. Thank you for spending time with me today, James.
Thanks, Quinn. You're going to make me blush.
Oh, that was cool. So anyway, I have been spending quite a lot of time on Twitter. That's how I get the majority of my news nowadays. And Twitter is actually how we met.
Yep.
You had posted something that really resonated with me. Do you remember what it was?
I do. It was shortly after George Floyd was murdered by police. I put out a statement that we were paying close attention to which members of the venture capital community were speaking out against that injustice, and which were not, and that founders like ourselves, that this was something that mattered to founders like ourselves. And if they wanted to be on our cap tables, then they would take this as seriously as we do.
I saw that tweet and something clicked in my head. And I realized this is exactly how I feel. You know, there seemed to be a void in the tech Twitter space, a silence that I was very surprised about. And part of my own founder journey is realizing that as a founder, you do have a lot of agency and power, especially when it comes to deciding the direction of your company, deciding who you take money from. And so I was really happy to see that tweet and reached out to you. And since then, we've had a number of incredibly interesting discussions. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to ask you, you know, you've done so many things in a short amount of time. What role has been your favorite?
Oh my God. What I'm doing right now. It's like, I wouldn't be founding a company if the thing I was most passionate about wasn't the desire to birth something, bring an entire, not only a business, but a way of approaching the use of technology in the workplace, in bringing something entirely new in that area to life.
I can relate to that, you know, being someone who is also trying to bring something new to life. I've been put in a lot of situations where I draw on skills and strengths that I didn't know I had, and also have been confronted with weaknesses. And so grappling with all of these things is difficult, but in one of those really rewarding ways.
Well, I know for you, obviously you are an expert level skier, far better than me, I'm sure. You also have a background in English, and probably tons of other experience, like non-medical experience that I don't know about yet. How do you find that both of those skill sets sneak into your work and help you do what you do a little bit better every day?
That's a good question. I would say,
Anthropology.
whoa. I would say that my background as an English major has been extremely helpful in allowing me to frame my thoughts in sentences um, that make sense, right? So kind of being able to communicate with people through email or through social media posts
Mhm.
or even like by mouth. This is a skill that I've kind of developed writing a lot of papers, doing close reading, essays, books, even of films. So I've kind of developed a communication style that came out of my interest in literature and things in that realm. And when it comes to extreme skiing, I think that the courage that comes from standing on top of a harness and going into a chute has definitely translated to making the leap to startup world, because I didn't know anyone in Silicon Valley a year ago. I was just messing around and I tried all of these things, right? So what I did was I just like pointed my skis downhill and trusted that I had the skill and instinct to avoid skiing into a tree or a rock. This hasn't always been successful on the slopes and in other realms of my life, but it's something I think about often. Like, I've done a lot of tough stuff on the slopes off piste. If I can do that, then I can do the startup thing. I can do the surgery. I just do whatever.
Which do you
Um,
think came first? Do you think it's more that there is a part of you that is an impassioned risk taker by nature, that you find joy in that adventure and in that challenge? Or do you think that it came as an outlet with you taking a more pre-founding a company, um, traditional professional path through medicine?
I think I have always had this thirst for adventure that I didn't know how to nourish. Then I found skiing, and maybe there's something about going on like my first backcountry ski trip that kind of made something go off in my head that was like, I cannot just do straight medicine. I can't. It's too constrained. So like I would like to kind of turn all this around and ask you, um, your background as an anthropologist, I'm sure has helped guide you in a lot of ways. So I'm curious. Tell
Oh
me.
boy. So I'll give you a little bit before I dig into how my education has impacted my current work. I'll give you a little bit of context on why I pursued the education I did. So I'm from Montreal, Quebec, in Canada. Um, I'm in Toronto right now, go Raps. But um,
It's not cool, by the way.
we can agree to disagree on that. Um, the way the Quebec system is very strange. That basically in the 1960s, there was a point in time where the baby boomers had a lot of kids, and the school system was being overwhelmed, and they felt the labor market would be overwhelmed, and they needed a way to slow things down for them to figure out how to put a solution in place. So what Quebec did was they implemented a program called CEGEP. Basically, you leave high school in grade 11 and go do anywhere between 2 to 5 years of college, after which you can go to university. It's a really weird system. The pre-university ones are like 1 to 2 years, and then there's professional programs that go up to 5 years. All of this to say, um, I did high school, and then I went and did classics and liberal arts in CEGEP. And then from that, I wanted to have impact in my life, and I wanted to have impact through the development of systems level technologies. And so what I thought was, like, I came up with a plan. I said I was going to do neuroscience, anthropology, and urban design. And the idea was the neuroscience would let me understand how people universally, fundamentally understand the world through the senses, through how the brain works. The anthropology would help me build another layer of, okay, now I understand how kind of humans universally understand the world. Now I'm going to understand how culture and society shapes how they interpret those base signals. And then I wanted to have a component that would let me take that knowledge and apply it to the world. So at the time it was urban design. No offense, U of T, but the urban studies program is not a design program. So I dropped that in my first year and ended up having an opportunity to, I've always been in love with tech, but in my first year I had an opportunity to work on developing environmental technologies at an Environment Canada lab on campus. And that gave me the opportunity to start working with engineers and scientists and this like incredibly vast technical team. And that's really what started pushing me back towards, I want to take this understanding of how people experience the world and apply it to technology. First, that was through developing technological adaptations to climate change, which is, that internship then developed into a full-time role. From there, it moved into, I had an opportunity through my neuroscience to first do brain cancer research at the largest trauma center in Canada, and then from the brain cancer research, pivoted into an opportunity to develop algorithms to predict car accidents and injuries. Again, now starting to move from the more biology side to the more like hard tech, computer science, machine learning aspect. From there, I got recruited to, and that was under the American College of Surgeons. From there, actually, I completely missed between the two, my anthropology experience. Between Environment Canada and the brain cancer research and accident prediction, through the anthropology part of my degree, I went and did research for the World Bank in the palm oil plantations of West Kalimantan, Indonesia, looking at how changes in World Bank policy were impacting local culture, local economic behavior, social traditions, etc., etc. So it was Environment Canada, then the anthropology, then the brain cancer research, then the car accident prediction, then health tech and ad tech work, and then chiefs of staff, and now founding a company. With that baseline understanding of like my whole path established, the idea in studying anthropology to begin with was always part of a broader desire to understand people. And so I have always wanted to place the needs of the people that I am working with at the heart of anything that I am designing or creating. And so often it has happened in my career that I end up in some kind of managerial position, and I end up relying very heavily on that training and experience to distance myself from my present experience and say, okay, this is my interaction with Quinn right now, but in the back of my head there's an algorithm running that's saying, okay, but what is the system of communication that we're operating under? How is this impacting the broader business? How how is the quality of our interaction impacting our ability to get the work done? And how can we redesign the systems of interaction, of communication, of deliberation around the work in a way that will help us to better accomplish the goal that we're trying to achieve. So that's happened both on the interpersonal managerial aspect of building a model to understand how a business is operating. And then it's also happened on the technological side of, okay, how am I as a free agent interacting with this piece of technology, and how is this piece of technology shaping how I'm interpreting the work that I'm doing and the interaction I'm having through the screen, like talking to you right now. And the design or technical dimension comes in as how can I use that understanding to help design for a given outcome.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really interesting, the focus on the human and the human experience. It's actually, I think, an aspect of life and being a human that a lot of humans don't prioritize. And it's so the two of us have quite different paths and backgrounds, but at the very base, we share a liberal arts background.
Yeah.
And
which I think gives us a common language, and is part of why we're able to communicate the way that we do, and why we probably part of why we mesh, is because we both have that common language and background and like enculturation that allows us to naturally overcome some communication hurdles, because we're both using the same metaphors, we're using the same communication style, and we are often relying on the same reference points.
Yeah. And I feel very lucky that we were able to, through a medium that I previously hated and didn't understand. I still don't understand it, but like meet and communicate in this way, in this language of people who care about other people, right?
Mhm.
And so because of that, we're both trying to build companies that are humans first,
Yes.
whether that be like the people we work with or employ or take money from are really diverse. We treat everyone fairly, and make sure that opportunities that we can offer are available to those who might not otherwise have the opportunities because of the way their resumes, because of their parents. And so, we meet semi-regularly now to talk about the ways that we can accomplish that. And was wondering if you could share with people who haven't been in these little circles of ours, how, like, the things we're trying to do to make sure that we remain human and build companies in which diversity and equity are baked into the culture and like the life of the company.
Well, I think you have hit it on the nose by framing it as putting the needs of the human first. I think one of the biggest, so obviously there's the hiring, there's like making sure that you have a diverse team to begin with, part of the challenge, which is a bias and hiring process challenge, which I'll get into in a second. But then assuming that you have a diverse team, there's the aspect of making sure that everyone is successful, has equal access to opportunity to grow and contribute to the success of the business, and a desire to make sure that everyone is able to fulfill their fullest potential in the roles that they've taken within an organization. And that second part of it is very highly reliant on that idea of treating other people like human beings first. I think a lot of the time we see in diversity and equity conversations that people are so worried about saying the wrong thing or about policing themselves that they forget that the core purpose of the interaction, the core purpose of building a more diverse and inclusive workforce is to help everyone within an organization be as successful as they can possibly be. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are not charity. It's not about saying, oh, this group has been disadvantaged, and so I am going to give them a handout. It is about recognizing that people from all backgrounds, experiences, and levels of training have particular skills and experiences and areas of expertise that they can contribute to the success of an organization. And and you are ignoring that experience, that work, and the what people can contribute at your own peril. By not building a diverse and inclusive workforce, you are actually handicapping your business in terms of what it is capable of accomplishing, because you are not bringing the broadest range of the best possible people to do the work in to do that work. And so taking that as your baseline, and recognizing that your objective is to bring the best possible people in to do the best possible job they can, then your responsibility as a manager becomes to deal with every single person on your team as a human being and work to understand them, their needs, their goals, and their objectives, what is preventing them from being as successful as possible, and how you can help guide them to success and open doors and break down barriers for them to make sure that not only that they are successful and go as far as they possibly can, but that you are successful, because by being part of the same organization, their success will impact your success and the success of the overall total organization. So that's the human aspect. It's saying, hey, I want to get to know you and your needs as a human being. I am going to treat you like a person that I trust, respect, and honor. And in so doing, I am going to do everything that I can to make sure that I understand your needs and am opening the doors and breaking down the barriers to make sure that you can do your absolute best work every single day and can be happy and confident coming in knowing that I, as your manager, have your back and will make sure that you are successful, because when you are successful, I'm successful. That's the human part of it. And then taking from that core premise that a successful business is able to leverage a full range of experiences, backgrounds, access to networks, et cetera, in order to be successful, then we can look at the hiring dimension, which is that if you do not broaden your pipeline to seek people who bring diverse perspectives, experiences, and areas of expertise to the work that you're doing, you are inevitably damaging you are impeding the success of your organization, because another business that does have that edge, that does have a more diverse workforce, is going to have diverse perspectives. They're going to be more creative. They're going to have access to different pipelines, channels, networks. They can exponentially increase the range of opportunity they have, both in terms of business connections and access to talent. And all of a sudden, you're going to find yourself outflanked and outmatched as an organization by virtue of making that one decision to not build the most inclusive possible workforce that you can.
Hmm.
So that's the
So,
frame.
okay. Making the hire. Shout out to Tiffany Ashley Bell.
Hashtag
Um,
purple t-shirt.
you. Like being able to see people for who they are, beyond what a piece of paper says, and then being willing to hire them, right? That takes a lot of external work, but also internal work. We talk a lot about holding ourselves accountable for knowing knowing our own biases and trying to um, trying to, I don't want to say fix them, but like check ourselves and do the work, do the reading, do the research for getting ourselves to the place where we can really um, be able to treat ourselves and other people respectfully and, like you said, with honor. Like I love that part, right? So um figuring out how to regularly be updating your knowledge
Mhm.
and um, checking your biases. So we had been talking about Dell Johnson's
Yes.
awesome newsletter, the
Yeah.
Intersectionality Primer. I think, if I were to toot the horn of any resource out there, it would be that, because I just find it um, such a powerful way of framing the issues in a
Mhm.
digestible manner, followed by recommended resources
Yeah.
for reading. So that is a part that I am trying to work on, and to get myself to the point where you were talking about, like being confident about hiring the right people for the job, so that my company, like your company, doesn't get outflanked by another company that can do that successfully and
Yep.
makes it a priority.
Um,
Um, Go ahead.
no, you're absolutely right. And um, I think there is a need to, like, if you can have that mindset shift and say, I'm doing this not only to benefit myself, my organization, but I also am going to make it a priority to look at other people's needs as human beings first. I think that perspective has a lot of positive knock-on effects for a business, particularly for a technology business like yours or mine. There's a few reasons for that. One is you start to look at the needs of your team and your employee more comprehensively and holistically, which helps you anticipate bottlenecks, make sure your team is happy and successful, equip everyone for success. We've talked about those aspects already. But there is also a sense that you start to invest in your customers a little bit more. You start to listen to them a little bit more closely, make the needs of your customers the core of your business, which, as we know in the startup world, helps immensely in designing the right product, building the right, finding product market fit, and achieving success, especially hyper growth success. And then the third component is if you can recognize the needs of the human being first and foremost when you're designing a technology product, um, then it becomes less about the technology itself and how cool it is and how sophisticated the tech is. And it starts to be, is this solving the problem that we set out to solve? And is it creating the experience that we set out to create? And so you start having this kind of tripartite feedback relationship where you're listening to your customers, you're using the information of your customers to feed into how you're designing your product. The product that you're designing is based on developing the best possible user experience that you can develop. And because you are listening to your team is as well equipped as possible with the resources that they need to be successful, which helps you develop the best possible technology for your customers, bring your customers joy, help your customers be as successful as possible. When your customers are successful, they start talking to other people, which then helps your business be more successful, which means that then you can improve your product, you can build your team, and it becomes this positive feedback relationship that we all hope ultimately leads to hypergrowth. So I think placing the needs of the human at the heart of anything you do in a business is ultimately the key to building a successful business, organization, etc. And I mean, we've known this for as long as the phrase business is all about relationships has been around. So, you know,
Thank you so much for your time.
thank
I always
you.
enjoy conversations.
Absolutely. Take care and stay safe out there.
Cheerio. See you on Twitter.
Ciao.